The entire floor of Sterling Tech buzzed with quiet tension as Robert Hale, the CEO who never panicked, stood frozen in front of a towering boardroom window. His reflection stared back at him, pale, sweating, terrified. In less than 2 hours, a delegation from Osaka's largest robotics firm would walk through his doors expecting a flawless presentation, a cultural welcome, and a clear business dialogue. But right now, Robert didn't even have a translator. Not even a chance of finding one. His former interpreter had walked out that morning, and somehow the fate of a $70 million deal now rested entirely in the hands of a panicked millionaire who suddenly realized how fragile everything was. The city below kept moving, but Robert's world was falling apart. Robert Hale had built his company the way some men build kingdoms, brick by brick, sacrifice by sacrifice. At only 38, he had already been featured on magazine covers, given talks at tech universities, and earned the reputation of a man who solved every problem with speed and precision. But for the first time in years, he felt powerless. His interpreter, Ms. Kobayashi, the woman who had translated for him during every international negotiation for the last 3 years, had slammed her notebook shut that morning. Her voice had trembled, not with fear, but with anger. "I am done, Mr. Hale. You treat people like machines, not humans. I refuse to be one more disposable part of your empire." Then she walked out, leaving him speechless. Now, hours later, he replayed her words in his mind like a haunting echo. He had been sharp with her. He had pushed her too hard. He had never bothered to say thank you. It wasn't that he didn't appreciate her. He simply never learned how to show it. And now he was paying the price, a devastating one. He rubbed a hand across his face as Patricia, his chief assistant, and the only person who saw him without the mask of perfection, rushed into the room holding a tablet. "Sir, every agency is fully booked. Every freelancer I called said the same thing. There's a global tech expo in town. Every Japanese speaker is already hired." Robert's jaw tightened. "Try again." "I have, sir." Her voice cracked a little. "I've been trying since 7 a.m. He turned toward the table where thick binders with Japanese text sat untouched. They might as well have been written in another universe. Every page, every diagram, every legal clause. Unreadable without someone to bridge the language. He felt sick. The Osaka company was famous for expecting perfection. Their chairman was old-fashioned, deeply respectful of Japanese business customs. One delay, one mistake, could end the partnership before it began. The worst part? The deal wasn't just about money, it was about future survival. His company had spent 4 years designing their new AI robotic software. Without Osaka Robotics, he couldn't manufacture it at scale. If the meeting failed today, everything, every investment, every sacrifice would collapse. Patricia approached carefully, like someone trying not to spook a wounded animal. "Sir, even if someone magically becomes available, they'd need at least a day to study the documents. This contract is over 700 pages. He knew she was right. Japanese legal language was precise. One wrong translation could land them in a lawsuit. "Still," he whispered, "there must be someone." But he didn't know where to look. He didn't know who to call. He didn't even know how to apologize to the interpreter he had driven away. And that's when the real fear kicked in. His chest tightened. His hands went cold. The once spacious conference room suddenly felt smaller, as if the walls themselves were leaning inward, squeezing the air from his lungs. He wasn't used to fear. He wasn't used to defeat. But today, he felt both creeping up on him like shadows. Patricia checked her watch. "Sir, the executives from Osaka just left their hotel. They'll be here in 1 hour." Robert closed his eyes. 1 hour to save his company. 1 hour to find a miracle. 1 hour before the empire he built began to crumble. And he had no idea that his miracle, the one person who would save everything, wasn't a professional, a linguist, or a corporate expert. She was a delivery girl, Someone he had never noticed, never thanked, and certainly never imagined would change the future of his company in less than a minute. Robert stood stiffly in front of the conference table, pretending to read through a stack of documents he could not understand. His mind was running in frantic circles. His throat felt dry, and every few seconds he checked his watch, like a man counting down to an execution. The Osaka delegation would arrive in less than 50 minutes. Patricia had stepped out to make more impossible phone calls, leaving him alone with nothing but silence and failure. The air in the room felt stale. He could hear the hum of the city outside, cars honking, people living their normal lives, while he stood inside a glass prison fighting panic. A soft knock broke the tension. The door opened not with urgency, but with the casual, almost tired push of someone who had no idea how desperate the man inside the room was. A young woman stepped in wearing a navy delivery jacket with a small thermal bag slung over her shoulder. She looked around uncertainly before clearing her throat. Food delivery for Patricia Mills? Robert blinked, confused, struggling to pull his mind back to reality. The girl looked no older than 22, warm brown skin, hair tucked into a loose braid, and eyes sharp enough to notice everything without saying much. Her jacket had rain spots on it, and her shoes looked worn from long hours on the road. She smelled faintly of vanilla and city rain. She had no idea she had just walked into the most critical moment of Robert's entire career. She'll be back soon, he said, voice uneven. Just leave it on the table. The girl nodded and walked in, placing 2 neatly packed containers down. But instead of leaving, she paused and tilted her head slightly, studying his face with the calm observation of someone used to reading people. "Are you okay, sir?" she asked gently. "You look kinda stressed." Robert almost laughed at the understatement, but only air came out. "I have a meeting in less than an hour," he whispered, "and I've lost the only person who can communicate with my clients." The girl didn't move, didn't blink. She simply looked at him, curious but respectful. "Clients from where?" she asked. "Japan." The shift in her expression was small but immediate. Not shock, more like recognition. "Oh," she said softly. "Japanese?" "Yes, and I don't have a translator. At all." His voice nearly cracked. The girl slowly set down the thermal bag. She wiped her hands on her jacket like she was preparing to ask a question she wasn't sure she had the right to ask. "What kind of meeting is it? Like business?" He blinked. "A $70 million international partnership." She let out a low whistle under her breath. "Damn." Robert ran a hand through his hair in frustration. "You have no idea how serious this is. Everything depends on this meeting. My staff, my company, years of work. All of it." His voice dropped. "And no one in the entire city speaks Japanese today." The girl hesitated, then surprised him. "Well, actually, I do." Robert froze. For a moment her words didn't make sense. Delivery girl, 20-something, not a business professional, and fluent in Japanese? He turned fully to face her. "You speak Japanese?" he asked, cautious. She shrugged lightly, almost embarrassed. "Yeah, I grew up with it. My grandmother raised me. She was from Kyoto. I learned English in school, but at home we spoke Japanese." Robert stared at her. This couldn't be real. He didn't know whether to feel hope or suspicion. "You're telling me," he said slowly, "that you're fluent?" She met his eyes, and the calm confidence in her expression didn't waver. "Completely fluent," she answered. "Reading, writing, business terms, all of it." A breath left his body in a rush, relief mixed with disbelief, but uncertainty returned almost instantly. "You're a delivery driver," he said before he could stop himself. "Not a professional translator." Instead of getting offended, she simply nodded. "That's true," she agreed. "But language is language. If you tell me the context, I can translate exactly what they say." She took a breath. "And I promise I won't mess it up." Her tone wasn't arrogant. It was steady, honest, grounded. Robert, a man who always relied on logic, struggled to process what emotion now hit him. "Why would you help? You don't even know me." She smiled just a little, tired but warm. "Because someone should," she said. "And Patricia always tips well." He let out a shaky laugh, the first in hours. But Patricia burst into the room before he could respond. "Sir, I found—" She stopped mid-sentence, staring at the delivery girl. "You're still here? Is something wrong?" Before Robert could explain, the girl spoke. "I can translate Japanese for the meeting." Patricia blinked, then squinted, confused. "Wait, seriously?" The girl nodded simply. "I grew up bilingual." Patricia's shoulders sagged as if someone had lifted 50 pounds off her back. "Oh, thank God," she whispered. Robert took a deep, heavy breath. It felt like the first real breath he had taken all day. But then, reality hit him again, a new fear creeping in. "Even if she speaks Japanese," he said, voice tight, "she hasn't read the documents. She doesn't know the terms." The girl slid the conference binder toward herself and flipped it open. "What's the contract about?" she asked. Robert explained in short, tense sentences: AI software integration, robotics testing, manufacturing licensing, confidentiality clauses. Her eyes skimmed the pages fast, but not carelessly. "I can do this," she said calmly after a minute. "Business Japanese is very similar to formal structure, and I understand the tech terms because, well, I studied engineering for a year." Patricia's mouth fell open. Robert's eyebrows lifted sharply. "You studied engineering?" The girl looked down, sliding her hands in her jacket pockets. "I had to drop out," she said quietly. "Couldn't afford it. Been doing deliveries ever since." There was something humble and painful in the way she said it. Robert felt an unexpected stab, not pity, but respect. She didn't ask for sympathy, she didn't complain, she simply stated the truth. And she was offering to save the very company that he, a millionaire with every resource, had failed to protect. He stared at her for a long moment. "What's your name?" he asked softly. She straightened a little. "Arya. My name is Arya." A gentle but firm name. He nodded slowly. "Arya," he said, "are you sure you can do this?" Her answer was simple, steady, and without fear. "Give me 1 hour," she said, "and I'll save your meeting." And in that moment, Robert Hale believed her. Evelyn stood outside the Bennett mansion, the winter wind biting at her cheeks as she clutched the small overnight bag she always carried. She hadn't stepped inside this house for nearly 8 years, yet every brick, every window, still held shadows of her pain. She wasn't here to reclaim anything. She was here because the doctor had called her. "Personally, he keeps asking for you, even when he forgets his own name." Her chest tightened. She had spent years rebuilding herself after Adrian abandoned her, yet some wounds never fully closed. She walked in with steady steps, aware of the cautious glances from the household staff. Some recognized her. Some only knew the stories. But Evelyn didn't bother with any of them. She moved quietly toward the private elevator leading to the upper wing, the same wing she had once decorated when she still believed in fairy tale promises. The elevator doors opened with a soft chime, and for a moment she closed her eyes, breathing through the memories. She had been a wife here, yet never accepted, never acknowledged. When she reached the door to Adrian's room, she hesitated. The hallway felt heavier, as if holding its breath. 2 nurses stood outside, whispering about his worsening condition. When they noticed Evelyn, their expressions shifted to surprise and confusion. "You must be—" "Evelyn?" one asked. Evelyn nodded. The nurse softened. "He's been restless all morning. Maybe your presence will calm him." Inside, the room was dim except for the soft glow of machines keeping Adrian comfortable. He looked nothing like the proud, immovable billionaire she remembered. He was frail, hair graying, breathing uneven. Yet the moment she stepped in, something changed. His eyelids fluttered, and he whispered a name only one woman in his entire life had ever heard spoken with such tenderness. Evie? Evelyn froze. She hadn't heard that nickname in years. Not from him. Not since before his family had convinced him to push her out of his world. She walked slowly toward him, her voice steady. "I'm here, Adrian." His breathing hitched, and tears slipped down the corners of his eyes. "You came back?" Evelyn swallowed the ache rising in her chest. "You asked for me." His frail hand trembled as he reached toward her. She hesitated, but only for a moment, then gently placed her hand in his. And just like that, the years between them seemed to fade. He pulled her closer with what little strength he had, whispering apologies, broken, fragmented confessions about the guilt that had eaten at him for years. "I should have protected you. I should have fought them, my parents, the board, the world. I destroyed us. I destroyed you." Evelyn closed her eyes, fighting back her own tears, because deep down she knew this moment would come someday, but she never imagined it would be like this, standing at the edge of his life, hearing the truth she had once begged for. But she didn't come for revenge. She didn't come to watch him suffer. She came because she was the only one he had ever truly loved, even if he realized it far too late. The news of Evelyn's arrival spread through the mansion like wildfire. Footsteps echoed down the long marble corridor as Adrian's family gathered outside his room. People who had pushed Evelyn out of his life, people who once proudly said she didn't belong in their legacy. His mother, Margaret Bennett, arrived first, elegant, sharp-eyed, and cold as polished steel. She froze when she saw Evelyn standing beside her son's bed, Adrian's frail hand still wrapped in hers. For a moment, Margaret couldn't speak. Shock rippled across her carefully composed face. "What is she doing here?" she whispered harshly. The nurse stepped forward, but Evelyn held up a hand. She didn't need defending, not anymore. Evelyn turned toward Margaret, her voice calm. "I'm here because he asked for me, and because you never could accept that he loved me." Margaret stiffened, her lips tightening like she had been slapped. That was years ago. He moved on. Evelyn's gaze didn't waver. Did he? Behind Margaret, Adrian's sister Chloe approached, her face a mask of conflicted emotion. Chloe had once been kind to Evelyn, at least in the beginning. But when the family pressure mounted, she had stepped back, choosing silence over loyalty. Now, looking at Evelyn, her voice trembled. "I didn't know he still thought about you." Evelyn didn't answer. She didn't need to. Adrian's weak grip around her hand said everything. From the bed, Adrian's voice cracked, barely audible. "Mother, she's my wife." Those 4 words were a blade slicing through the tension in the room. Margaret's expression twisted. "That marriage was a mistake," she snapped. "It was annulled. You—" But Adrian cut her off with surprising strength, his eyes blazing with a fire Evelyn hadn't seen in years. "You forced that annulment. You destroyed my marriage. You destroyed her." Silence fell so heavy it felt like the room stopped breathing. Margaret's voice shook with anger. "We did what was necessary to protect this family, her background, her color, her—" "Enough." Evelyn's voice rose, firm and steady, the voice of a woman who had carried her pain quietly for years. "You broke us apart because you never believed someone like me deserved a place in your world." Her words struck them like thunder. Even Chloe looked away, ashamed. Evelyn continued, her tone unwavering. "But despite everything you did, he still called my name when he forgot everything else. Not yours, not his fiancée's, mine." Margaret's mouth fell open, stunned and speechless. Evelyn stepped closer to Adrian, brushing his forehead gently as he struggled for breath. "You see," she said softly, "love doesn't disappear just because you bury it." Chloe took a shaky breath, tears forming. "Evelyn, I'm sorry. I should have defended you. I should have—" "It's too late for apologies," Evelyn said, her voice warm but weary. "But not too late to let him have peace." Margaret trembled, anger fighting with guilt, pride battling the truth. "You shouldn't be here," she whispered. Evelyn looked directly into her eyes. "Whether you accept it or not, I am his wife." And with that, she sat back down beside Adrian, her hand wrapped around his, refusing to let go this time, not for his family, not for the world, and not for the ghosts of their past. For the first time in 8 years, Evelyn wasn't alone, and for the first time in 8 years, Adrian wasn't abandoned, because the truth had finally come out, and it could no longer be silenced. The quiet hum of the machines filled the hospital room as Evelyn sat beside Adrian, her hand still wrapped around his. The storm outside had softened, but inside the Bennett family, a far greater storm was about to break. Margaret stood at the foot of the bed, stiff and unmoving, like a statue carved from ice. Chloe lingered by the door, torn between fear and guilt, her arms wrapped tightly around herself. The weight of the unspoken truth pressed down on everyone, thick and suffocating. Evelyn could feel the years of unanswered questions rising in her chest. She had loved Adrian more than life. She had married him at 22, full of dreams, hope, and blind trust. Then one day, without warning, she had been told the marriage was over, her presence was no longer welcome, and Adrian never came for her again. Now, looking at him, weak, broken, and yet clinging to her, she knew the story she had been told couldn't possibly be the real one. She lifted her eyes and looked directly at Margaret. "Tell me the truth," she said quietly, but with a force that made the room tremble. "You owe us that much." Margaret's jaw tightened, her eyes darting away for a brief moment before she found her voice. "There is nothing to tell," she tried to say, but her voice wavered. "We did what was best for Adrian, what was best for the family." "For the family," Evelyn repeated, her voice cold. "But what about him? What about me?" Chloe stepped forward, her voice shaking. "Mom, we can't hide it anymore." Margaret shot her a warning look, but Chloe didn't back down this time. The years of silence had weighed too heavily on her conscience. "Evelyn," she whispered, tears trembling in her eyes, "Adrian never wanted to leave you." Evelyn froze. Her heartbeat stopped. Her breath caught in her throat. "What?" she whispered. Chloe nodded, her voice breaking. "He fought for you. He fought harder than I've seen him fight for anything in his life." Margaret turned sharply. "Chloe!" But Chloe continued, tears rolling down her cheeks. "He was locked in meetings for days, refusing to let you go. He said he would leave the family, the company, everything, if they didn't accept you." Evelyn felt the world tilt beneath her. She looked down at Adrian, his eyes fluttering open just long enough to meet hers, full of an old, familiar pain. Margaret's voice trembled with anger and something far more fragile, fear. He was going to throw away his entire future, everything his father built, everything our family stands for. "So you destroyed us," Evelyn whispered, her voice trembling. Margaret looked away, unable to face the truth of her own cruelty. "You forced the annulment," Evelyn continued. "You took my signature when I was sick, confused, grieving my father. You told me Adrian didn't want me anymore." Margaret didn't deny it. She couldn't. Her silence was confession. A sound escaped Evelyn, half sob, half broken laugh. "My God, all these years, you let me believe he abandoned me." Chloe wiped her tears. "Evelyn, he fought for you. He tried to escape the house. He tried to call you. Mom shut everything down. She took his phone, cut him off from everyone, threatened to send him away for rehabilitation if he didn't listen." Margaret's voice cracked. "I was trying to protect the legacy. You were a distraction, a weakness." Evelyn felt a fire ignite in her chest, hot and unforgiving. "A weakness," she repeated, her voice rising. "I was his wife. I loved him. He loved me. You tore us apart and called it protection?" The monitors beeped faster as Adrian stirred, gasping for breath, his hand reaching blindly for hers. Evelyn immediately leaned forward, her fingers threading through his, calming him. His voice was barely a whisper, broken, but clear enough to shatter everyone in the room. "I searched for you, Eve. I never left you. They—" Tears streamed down Evelyn's face. "I know," she whispered, pressing her forehead to his. "I know now." Margaret's strong facade finally cracked. Her shoulders sagged, her eyes glistened, and for the first time in her life she looked old, haunted by the weight of her choices. "I thought I was protecting him," she admitted in a trembling whisper, "but I was wrong. I see that now." Evelyn turned to her slowly, her voice steady but sharp. "Your pride destroyed 8 years of our lives, 8 years of love, 8 years of memories that could have been." Chloe sobbed openly now, unable to contain the guilt. "I'm so sorry, Evelyn," she whispered. "I should have told you years ago. I was afraid, but that doesn't excuse it." Evelyn nodded slowly, not in forgiveness, but in understanding the depth of the betrayal. The room remained heavy with silence, every breath filled with regret. For 8 years, Evelyn believed Adrian had abandoned her, but the truth was far more devastating. He had been fighting for her until the very end, and she never knew. And now, with Adrian fading and time slipping through their fingers, the truth had come too late to rewrite the past. But not too late to change what happened next. The hospital room was quiet now, save for the steady beep of monitors and the soft hiss of oxygen. Winter light streamed through the large window, painting the room with a pale, forgiving glow. Adrian's hand, frail but still seeking Evelyn's, trembled slightly as he looked up at her. Every line on his face told the story of years lost, years of longing, regret, and a love he never stopped carrying. Evelyn held his hand gently, her thumb stroking the back as if trying to transfer strength from herself to him. She had spent 8 years preparing for this moment in her mind, wondering how she would face him after all the pain, all the lies, all the betrayal forced upon them. And yet, now that she was here, words seemed almost useless. The only language that mattered was the one they had always shared, love, silent but unbreakable. Adrian's voice cracked as he whispered, "I'm sorry for everything, for letting you think I abandoned you." Evelyn leaned closer, her forehead resting against his. She could feel the shallow rise and fall of his chest, the warmth of his hand, the heartbeat she had memorized in the past and never forgotten. "It wasn't your fault," she said softly, though every inch of her knew it had been the family's cruelty that had kept them apart. "You never left me. They lied, and they controlled everything. But you never gave up." Tears slid down Adrian's cheeks, mingling with hers. The room felt smaller somehow, the walls shrinking around the two of them, as if the universe itself wanted to witness this reunion. He tried to smile, and it was weak, but it carried all the weight of his regret and his enduring love. "I should have fought harder. For us. For you," he whispered. "But I was trapped by my pride, by them. I failed you." Evelyn's hand squeezed his. "You didn't fail me, Adrian. You're here now, and that's what matters." For a long moment, silence enveloped them. Outside, the world continued its relentless pace, but inside that hospital room, time had stopped. Every beep of the monitor, every shallow breath, every tear was sacred. Adrian's family, Margaret and Chloe, stood awkwardly in the corner, realizing for the first time the full cost of their arrogance. Words failed them. Shame and guilt were the only language they could speak. Finally, Evelyn spoke, her voice firm yet tender. "We can't change the past, but we can choose what we do now." Adrian's hand trembled as he reached for hers, pulling her closer. "I don't care about them," he said, his voice gaining strength despite his weakness. "I only care about you. Us. The time we have left." In that moment, Evelyn knew that love, true love, was not measured by years together or the obstacles they had endured. It was measured by unwavering loyalty, forgiveness, and the courage to show up when it mattered most. She leaned down and pressed her lips to his forehead, a simple gesture, yet brimming with emotion, forgiveness, and a promise that they would face the future together, no matter what remained of it. Margaret, finally finding her voice, whispered, I was wrong. You both deserved happiness. I can see that now." Her eyes glistened with tears she hadn't allowed herself to shed in decades. Chloe stepped forward, sobbing openly. "I'm so sorry, Evelyn, for everything." Evelyn turned slowly to face them, her gaze calm and powerful. "Apologies are meaningless if they come too late, but you can honor him by letting him rest in peace and by never interfering in love again." Adrian's strength waned further, and Evelyn wrapped him in a gentle embrace, whispering comforting words as he drifted in and out of consciousness. In those final hours, past grievances, family manipulation, and years of pain melted away in the warmth of their reunion. As the sun began to set, casting a golden hue over the room, Adrian's eyes fluttered closed one last time, a soft, contented smile brushing his lips. Evelyn held him close, silently promising that his love, their love, would survive beyond his final breath. She whispered to him, "I'm here, always." The room was still. Machines beeped softly in rhythm with her heartbeat, marking the end of one chapter and the quiet beginning of another. The family understood finally that no amount of wealth, control, or status could ever replace love. And Evelyn, once abandoned and betrayed, had finally reclaimed her place, not just in Adrian's heart, but in the truth that had always belonged to her.